Howdy y'all, it's Ryan from RNA Music, your favorite mom and pop guitar shop and music lesson studio deep in the heart of Texas. It's where I'm at. And I've got a real special video for you today. I think it's special. You guys will be the judge of that. Today I'm gonna go get a guitar that I need for a special project I'm doing. So you're gonna watch me go get a guitar. After I go get the guitar though, we're going to do a little bit of a hot take comparison video with this guitar compared to another that seems to be a little bit, a little bit of a spicy take, I guess. And you guys will give me your opinion at the end of this video about what you think comparing these two guitars, and does one of them get some unfair bias? Let's go. Let's go to one of my favorite guitar shops. I am driving to one of my other favorite guitar stores. Of course, obviously, RNA Music is my ultimate favorite guitar store because it's mine. And I love me and my wife and what we do, and teaching kids music and just what we do is great. But I have some other guitar stores that I absolutely adore and love. One being Flipside Music in Denver, Colorado. Home of the Flipside Blues. Anthony Evangelio. I know a guy. I love Ike. He's just like my favorite, one of my favorite people in the universe. And he owns a music store in Denver, Colorado. Flipside Music. Go check him out. But one of my other all-time favorite guitar stores, Action Sound, Hawkins, Texas. It's about 45 miles away from Canton, from where I'm at. And the guy, Kelly, who owns the Action Sound, has owned it forever. And it's just one of my favorite people in the guitar business. We actually bought my very first drum set from Kelly back in like 1988. Back in the 80s. Got not my first amp. My first amp was a crappy PV Decade amp that now is all the rage because of Queens of the Stone Age. But anyways, it's a crappy amp. It sounds like buttholes. But whatever. But my first better amp was a Fender Princeton Chorus. Two 10-inch speakers, stereo core, solid state, but it was a definite upgrade, 2-channel. We got that from Kelly at Action Sound. My dad's got a drum set from Kelly, and I've gotten a couple of guitars from Kelly. And Kelly's been a huge help to me and RNA Music in the industry because he's been doing it a while and knows the ins and outs of the industry and dealing with sales reps and dealing with companies and stuff. And man, Kelly is a pistol. I just love him, and we send a lot of business to him when we can. They specialize in repairs. So if you have a guitar and your neck is snapped in 5 places, they can fix it, put it back together.
The destination is on your left. Action Sound Music Incorporated.
Yay. So anyways, their bread and butter is repairs, although he does have wall-to-wall guitars and drum sets, and he does a lot of vintage stuff that's super secret. It's not out there for you to see, but he's got some old vintagey stuff. You want an old Gibson or an old Fender or something like that. So I'm going there today because I need a guitar, and we're going to try to do some horse trading because I have a plethora of guitars. So I'm going to see if I can trade a couple that that I don't play very much for something that I could use in my ZZ Top tribute band. Let's go. Right on. All right, so you can see that I got the 2006 Desert Sunburst Les Paul Studio Plus. As you noticed in the video, there was when I got there, they had a Les Paul Studio, crap, I forgot what it was called. It's not a Plus, but it was something else that had a nice flamey top, Premium Plus? I don't know. And it had some nice, you know, push, not push-pull, but push, you know, like a decibel booster. It was one of the Les Paul Studios that I was looking at online at various places that had a little bit of a, it had a sexy top on it, you know, which is kind of what I was looking for with the Les Paul Studio. One with kind of a sexy top to it, not just the kind of, you know, plain black or white or wine red Studios, which are great guitars. But I wanted one that was a little extra. I almost went with that Cherry Sunburst one just because I felt like it was a little bit more in the ballpark of maybe what Billy Gibbons would play. I was looking, that's kind of the point of this, I was looking for a Gibson Les Paul that I could play in the ZZ Top tribute band I have formed with some friends. And that one, I mean, it doesn't look like Pearly Gates, but it was the Sunburst was a little bit closer, but I didn't really love it. This one, oh man, this one like personally appeals to me. Oh my God, much more. This is the Desert Burst, right? So I did end up picking this one again. The point was, I wanted to get something for the tribute band, you know, that I could gig with, that I could, you know, go to some gigs and not worry too much about it. Not a super expensive guitar that, you know, when you're playing gigs, outdoors, indoors, various places, I mean, you kind of never know what you might run into, situations, people, things, transporting back and forth, you know. And so I kind of didn't want to use my Les Paul Standard for gigging. And I have some Epiphone guitars, and I'm probably actually going to use that Epiphone Flying V for the gig as well, just because I freaking love it. You know what I mean? But I've got three Epiphones. I have the Zakk Wylde, Epiphone Les Paul, which we'll not be using because it's like 15 pounds. It's monstrously heavy. I have a sparkly blue Epiphone Les Paul that I bought for my wife back in 2005 or 2004. I don't know. It's pretty cool. I actually may use it on slide guitar things, but I wanted a Gibson, you know, for the thing, because people are judgmental. I mean, I have no problem playing Epiphones and Schecters for that matter. I've got like 26 or 27 guitars, you know, 5 or 6 USAs, and then a lot of Korean imports. I think the only Chinese guitar I have is that frickin' Flying V Epiphone, which is kind of one of my favorites right now. I'm loving the V so much. But the point was, I wanted a Lester that said Gibson on the headstock, but I can gig it and not super worry about getting it all jacked up. Now, so I ended up choosing this one. Now we're going to talk about some comparisons though, because I do have a Gibson Les Paul Standard. So this is a 2006 Studio Plus. This is a 96 Les Paul Standard. So we're going to compare these a little bit. I will play both of them and give you some sound samples, but mostly I want to kind of have a discussion about this, right? Pros and cons. Gibson fans can be a passionate group of guitarists. I mean, I've owned a Gibson since '92. I have my Gibson Explorer, which you'll see in just a second. I have an Explorer that I bought in '92. It's a '91 Explorer. And, you know, I love that guitar. It is like my baby. If I could only rescue one of my 26 or 27 guitars from certain death, it would be the Gibson Explorer, because it has so much sentimental value to me. But again, I'm also not going to take that to a gig where something could happen, because it is my most valuable guitar from an emotional standpoint. Now, I have more expensive guitars than the Explorer. So Gibson owners, I don't want to use the term fanboys and fangirls, fan circles, can be a passionate group of people. As you watching this may be aware, if you've ever been on a Facebook page or any YouTube video talking about Gibsons, Gibson elicits quite the spectrum of passion, either love, hate, or in between. But let's talk about these two real quick. Now, what I've seen is a lot of people kind of crap on the studios, is like, that's not a real Les Paul. I'm like, clearly it says Les Paul on it, so I guess it is a real Les Paul. And you know, they are more affordable than, say, the standards. You know, so maybe they get a bad rap because they are budget, quote unquote, budget friendly Gibsons. But there's a little bit of bias, whether they're like, oh, it's not as good or whatever. Well, let's just talk about a couple of differences, and then we'll talk about whether it's as good or not. Number one, this particular one, the Studio Plus, it is significantly lighter than the standard. These have some, I guess, a fair amount of weight relief. At least the 2006s do. I think the modern ones do as well. So it is definitely lighter, which is exactly what I was looking for. Because again, I've been rehearsing with my band, and I'm standing up quite a bit playing guitar, walking around. At my job, teaching lessons. I'm generally sitting in this chair most of the day, and it doesn't really matter if I have a really heavy guitar if I'm sitting down. I really don't care. But if you're standing for an hour or two or whatever, you know, the heavier guitars, even with a really wide strap, can wear on you a little bit. I'm 48, so I'm not as young as I used to be. I used to prefer heavier guitars in my youth because heavier is better. It's got more tone. It's got more sustain. You know, people say that kind of stuff. But now, in my my midlife, I am really enjoying the lighter guitars. That Flying V back there is really light. It feels great to stand and play. You know, I've got a few others. I've got a couple of Schecters. I got some Schecters that are freaking boat anchors. And I love them, but I don't think I'm going to gig with them because they're just too heavy. And I've got a couple of Schecters. I've got a Schecter Solo 2 Custom that is very comfortable. I like it a lot. Doesn't really look like something Billy Gibbons would play, so I'm probably not going to use it in the band. But I also have a Wild Audio Blood Eagle, which is, you know, an Explorer-shaped guitar that I probably will use with the band because it kind of looks like something that Billy in the 80s would have played. He's played some, you know, fuzzy guitars and, you know, Explorers and Vs, and he's played all kinds of crazy stuff. I haven't weighed these, but this feels like as light as my other guitars that are like, you know, 7.9, 8 pounds. This has got to be 10. It's easily 10. That Epiphone Zac back there is 11.5 pounds. It is a beast. This is lighter than the Epiphone Zac. So it's probably 10. Let's talk about the differences. Now, this is a special studio. As you can see, it has a smoking hot top. That is not a veneer. We got a sexy maple top on this. A lot of the studios have just sort of a normal plain Jane top, but this standard, it's got some figuring in it, but it's not particularly amazing, right? So again, this particular standard is not super flamey top. I know there are standards with flamey tops, but this is just, you know, a very basic top on it. The difference really, I mean, same pickups, the 496 and the 498, essentially the same pickups. This one is lighter weight. The only real difference really, besides the weight relief, is binding, right? You know, we've got binding on the neck and the body of the standard. No binding on the neck of this one. Also, you know, mother of pearl Gibson logo, not mother of pearl Gibson logo. Same tuning machines on these, basically. Now, I know this is not your typical Les Paul Studio, but still. Really, the only difference is the weight relief and no binding, right? But about half the price. I'm gonna give you prices, you know, used. We're gonna talk about used prices as of today, which is May 30th, 2024, year of our Lord. The Les Paul Studios, well, currently new as of today, brand new studios, which you can't get this one, but you can get, you know, new studios. They're about $19.99. I'm just gonna round up $1 and say it's $2,000 for a Les Paul Studio currently, 2024. Currently, a standard is starting around, again, we're gonna round up $1, $26.99, $2,700 up to around, you know, $3,000. And then of course, on up if you wanna get some fancy other standards, right? Brand new, about a $700 difference at least between a standard and a studio. Used is where it gets kind of interesting. A used Les Paul standard, depending on where you look, kind of range from $2,000 up to $2,900, depending on where you are and what year it is and all that kind of stuff. We're gonna say from 2000 to 29, we're gonna average that out to about $2,700. For a used one, $2,700, which is, I mean, you can buy a new one from Sweetwater when they're having a sale, you know, for that kind of stuff. So they do hold their value particularly well, which is great. The studios, Les Paul Studios, run from about $800, $799 on the cheap end, maybe kind of beat up, but about $800 up to $1,500 if you got a really fancy, you know, special one or something like that. But we're gonna say roughly half the price of a standard is you can get a studio used. And again, it's basically binding and weight relief. Not a lot of difference. So where's the hate coming from for, you know, the studios versus at least a standard? You know what I mean? When they're really, yes, significantly more affordable. Is it because they're about half the price used of a standard is why they don't get maybe the respect or the dignity they deserve from the guitar playing public? I don't know. That's what I thought. But then I got to thinking, well, wait a second. If the real issue is cosmetically, not weight relief, but cosmetically, we're just talking about binding. That's really it. We're gonna knock off $1,000 because it doesn't have binding? Huh, really? Is that? Is that the hang up? It's not a real Les Paul because it doesn't have binding, so it's not worth as much. You know what else doesn't have binding? My frickin' Gibson Explorer also does not have binding on the neck or on the body, kind of like the Studios don't have binding on the neck or the bodies. But guess how much a used Explorer is? Used Explorers, in this case, this is a 1991 Gibson Explorer, are worth about $2,000 on the low end, up to $3,000 for a used Explorer, given the year and the spec and all that crap. Brand new Gibson Explorers are about $2,500, $2,499. But let's call it what it is, $2,500. Flying V's, I'm gonna lump the Flying V's into this as well, because the Flying V is about the same price as the Explorer. Again, no binding on the body or the neck. Flying V's, brand new, $2,500. Used, about the same as the Explorer, anywhere from $2,000 on the low end to $3,000 on the little bit higher end, not counting custom shop Flying V's and Explorers. But you could make an argument that a Les Paul Studio is just like the Les Paul version of an Explorer or a Flying V. From a cosmetic standpoint, you know, that's really what a Les Paul Studio is. It's just I would put it in the same category as an Explorer or a Flying V from a cosmetic standpoint. Interestingly, as I was looking at V's and Explorers today, brand new ones, some of the brand new ones actually have fretboard binding, which is pretty interesting. Because I've never really seen that. So I don't know if that's a new thing for 2024. A lot of the 70s reissue Explorers and V's have some neck binding. So that's kind of a new thing. I'm talking to the majority of Explorers for the longest time, and Flying V's have not had neck binding or body binding. So I'm gonna chalk that up to a brand new 2024 thing that you can find neck binding, which is kind of, honestly, I gotta say it's kind of weird because I don't associate neck binding with V's or Explorers. So maybe that's just a freaky new thing. So really, from a money standpoint, well, why are Explorers and V's worth so much on the used market without the cosmetics, and the Studios are worth about half that? Interesting, right? Now, different pickups, you know, the Explorers and V's usually have the 496 and the 500T, which I like. Studios will have the 490 and the 498. Now that's exactly what's in my Les Paul Standard. So this and my Standard have the exact same pickups. What's y'all's opinions on why the Studios don't kind of get the value that we associate with Standards? I don't know. It's pretty interesting. Now this guitar, for me personally, is gonna do the job I want it to. It's lighter. It's not super light, but it is lighter than my Standard, which is that's what I need if I'm gonna be standing up rehearsing and standing up playing and gigging. That's exactly what I want. It's got the little bit sexier top, being a Standard Plus, about half the price of a Standard. So for me, this one is gonna do the job I need it to do. I would love to gig the Standard, but just the weight of it I know is gonna bother me. And then again, this one also, it is more expensive guitar, this Standard, but it also has some sentimental value to me that I can't really put a price on. So again, I don't wanna take it out to a gig and something potentially happen to it. I know some of the older Studios you can find with ebony boards, and that's pretty rad if you can find one with an ebony board. This one has a rosewood, so it is very similar to the standard. Another Les Paul Studio story for another day that hopefully I will shoot that video for you guys and compare it. One of my friends has a studio that I just stinking love, my buddy's Les Paul Studio. So maybe he'll let me borrow it to do a video in comparison for you guys. And girls in circles. But tell me down below, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on studios versus standards? Would you play one? What do you think about the value difference based on just freaking binding for the most part? What do you guys think about that? Let me know down below. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. I know some of y'all freaking hate Gibson. One of our regulars, Shane, absolutely despises Gibson, and that's okay. From a corporate standpoint, I also do not like a lot of the decisions the leadership of the company has made over the years. Yeah, and that's why I did not buy a new one. So this is used. This is a pre-owned one I got from Kelly at Action Sound, and we did some horse trading, which works for me. Tell me what you thought about the sound samples and comparisons throughout this video as I've been yammering on. If you enjoyed this video or you found some value in it, please subscribe to our little YouTube channel. We are a small town mom and pop business. We teach music lessons all week long. We are keeping the music alive for the next generation. We have about 50 to 60 students each week. My wife and I teach guitar, piano, drums, vocals, ukulele, training the next generation of musicians in small town East Texas anyways. And so if you believe in that mission, please subscribe. If you share this video, if you found this video interesting and you have a friend you think would enjoy seeing it, please share this video. It's one of the best things you can do. Thumbs up, like, watch the videos, share them with friends that you think would enjoy it. And that goes a long ways to helping us continue keeping the music alive for the next generation. Thank you guys so much. We'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye.